Hello everyone and welcome to this video on the Python programming language. So in this video I will revisit an old video that I will put a link to in the description below. And in this old video called Build a Killer Stock Portfolio, I was able to make a quote optimized unquote stock portfolio. Now I want to know just how well has this portfolio performed after about 3 years, and would it have been better to place the initial amount of about 5,000 USD into the S&P 500 instead of into the portfolio. Alright, so now I'm currently on Google's website called colab.research.google.com because it makes it easy to start programming. So if you're going to program along with me, go to this website and log in using your Google account and start writing your code by clicking on File, then click on New Notebook, where a new tab will open up for you, and then eventually a new cell will open up for you. Now in this cell, I am going to import the libraries that I want to use for this program. So I'm going to import pandas as PD, and I'm going to import numpy as NP. And then I'm going to run this cell by clicking this button here to the left, which will let me know if I made any mistakes. Now before we begin, if you like the videos on this channel, then be sure to click that subscribe and like button. And to be notified about videos from this channel, hit that bell notification. Also, you can get the code or dataset or just support the channel on Patreon at patreon.com/computerscience. I will leave a link for that in the description below as well. And the material in this video is purely educational and should not be taken as professional investment advice. Alright, so let's go ahead and continue. Let's create a new cell by clicking that code button in the top left. Now I'm going to read in the data that contains the stock information for the stocks in the portfolio from the older video. Okay, so I'm going to create a variable called data. I'm going to set it equal to pd.read_csv, and let's go ahead and click on this files button. Let's upload the files. So I'm going to upload these two files here. Click open. I get a little warning. It's okay. Okay, so the two files that I uploaded are portfolio_data.csv and voo.csv. Alright, so I'm going to first read in portfolio_data.csv, and then I want to show the data. So I'm just going to type data here. Let's go ahead and exit this. Let's run this cell, and now we can see the data. So we can see for the columns, we can see the date, and then we can see the stock symbols that are in the portfolio from the portfolio video. Alright, now I want to change the indices to be the date, so that's easy enough by adding in the parameter parse_dates, and gotta spell that correctly, parse_dates, and I'm going to set this equal to true, and then also add index_call equal to date. Okay, so now I'm going to run this again, and now we can see that the indices have changed to be the date. Okay, so I'm going to create a new cell, and in this cell we're going to do a few calculations. So here I want to calculate the daily returns of the portfolio. So that's easy enough. I'm just going to create a variable called returns, and I'm going to set it equal to data.pct_change. Alright, next I want to calculate the cumulative returns of the portfolio. So I'm going to create a variable called cumulative_returns, and I'm going to set this equal to 1 plus returns dot cum prod left parentheses right parentheses, and then I want to show the cumulative returns of the portfolio. So I'm just going to highlight this, copy using Control C, and come down here and paste it using Control V. Okay, and maybe I add of the portfolio here, and highlight this, copy it, and add it here, and add it here. Okay, so let's go ahead and run this, and now we can see the cumulative returns. Alright, and this is nice, but let's get a visual of this. That'll probably be much better, right? So here I'm going to plot the returns And in order to do this, I do need to import another library. I need to import matplotlib.pyplot as plt. All right, so then I'm going to type plt.plot, and I'm going to plot the cumulative returns. And then I want to give that a label, which will be the columns in our cumulative returns data set. So I'm just going to type cumulative underscore returns dot columns. Okay, and then I'm going to change the x ticks. So I'm going to set their rotation to be equal to 90 degrees. And then I'm going to give the y-axis a label. So I'm going to type plt.ylabel. And I'm going to put returns of $1 investment. Okay, and I'm going to give the x-axis a label too. So I'm going to type plt.x label, and I'm just going to type date here, and then plt.legend and plt.show. All right, so let's go ahead and run this. Oh, look like I did something wrong here. So let's see, label is misspelled. So plt.label. All right, so let's run this again. Okay, so now this is our chart. It looks like we would have done well to have sold mRNA around this time period at its peak, but you just never know when a stock is going to peak. Also looks like the PTON or Peloton did poorly, as well as ZM, which is Zoom. It also did very poorly. It looks like we would have lost money on both of those stocks. All right, so let's create a new cell. And now in this cell, I want to create a data frame showing the results of the portfolio to date. And I say to date, I really mean to the end of our data set, which is 5/20/24. So I'm going to put that here to 5/20/24. Okay, so I'm going to create a new variable called results, and I'm going to set it equal to pd.dataframe. Okay, and then I'm going to give the results a column called ticker, which will store the tickers in our data set. So I'm going to get that from our cumulative underscore returns dot columns, right? Because those are the ticker symbols. And I'm going to create a new column. It's going to be called the num of shares, or num shares, which will hold the number of shares for each of those stocks from the previous video. So we do have to already know the number of shares in that portfolio, and I do know them here, so I'm just going to type it out. So I had 1 share of Cintas or CTAS, then I had 10 shares of Marriott or MAR, and 4 shares of mRNA or Moderna. Then I had 1 share of Pinduoduo or PDD, and 11 shares of Peloton or PTON, and 6 shares of ROS or ROST, and 1 share of Zoom or ZM. Okay. All right. So let's go ahead and create another column called cumulative returns, and this will hold the last row of data from our cumulative returns data set. So I'm going to type cumulative underscore returns dot tail. I only want that last row of data dot values at position 0, and then I'm going to create another column called last close price, and this will contain the last close price from our original data set, which is data dot tail. We only want that last row of data dot values at position 0, and then I'm going to create one more column called end amount. Okay, and this will show the value per ticker symbol that I have in the portfolio. So I do have to do some calculations for this. So it's going to be results num shares times results cumulative returns times the first row of data from our data set. So that's data dot head 1 dot values at position 0. All right, so data dot head 1 dot values at position 0. All right, and now to double check my math, I'm going to create another column called check end amount, and I'm going to set this equal to results num shares times results last close price. All right. Okay, I think that does it. Let's go ahead and show the results. So I'm just going to type results here. Let's go ahead and run this cell. All right, and now we can see the end amount and the check end amount have the same values in it, which is good. That means that the math is correct. And we can see our last close price. We can see all of our columns, our ticker symbols, the number of shares for each ticker symbol, the cumulative returns for each symbol. So everything looks good. So let's create a new cell here. And now in this cell, what I want to do is I want to show the amount you would currently have in the portfolio after the initial $5,000 USD investment. Okay, so I should put that in comments here. So here I want to show the amount you would currently have in the portfolio after the initial 5,000 USD investment. Okay, so I'm going to create a variable called portfolio underscore profit, and I'm going to set this equal to results dot sum. I'm going to set the access equal to 0, skip in A equal to true, and I want to sum the end amount column. So that's at position 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. All right, so at position 4. All right, and then I'm going to type portfolio underscore profit, and let's run this. So with our initial $5,000 investment, we would currently have $4,707 and about 79 cents. We would have lost money. All right, so now that we know that, would an investment in the S&P 500 been better? So what I mean by that is if we had put in $5,000 into the S&P 500 instead of into this portfolio, would it have performed better? Would it have given us higher returns? So let's check that now. And I'm going to create a new cell, and it's going to be easy enough because we're going to do basically the same thing. So I'm just going to come all the way back up to the top here. I'm going to highlight all of this, copy using Control C, come down here and paste it using Control V and change a few things. So one thing I'm going to change is this comment. So now we're going to read in the data that contains the stock information for the S&P 500. Okay, and I'm going to change this data variable to data1, and I'm going to set it equal to pd.read underscore CSV, and I'm going to input voo.csv. All right, and we already have that file here, voo.csv. We uploaded it earlier, and then I want to show the data. So I want to show data 1. So let's run this. Let's take a look at our S&P 500 data. All right, so it looks good. We can see the open price, high price, low price, close price, adjusted close price, and volume, and we really only care about that close price. All right, so let's go ahead and create a new cell, and now we're going to calculate or do some calculations very, very similar to what we did for our portfolio. So we're going to calculate the returns. We're going to calculate the cumulative returns for the S&P 500. So I'm going to highlight all this from before, copy, use Control C, go back down, and I'm going to paste all that using Control V and change a few things. So now we're going to calculate the daily returns of the S&P 500. I'm just going to highlight that and copy it for now. All right, instead of this returns variable, I'm going to call it returns1. Instead of setting it equal to data, I'm going to set it equal to data1, right? Because that's what we loaded the S&P 500 data set into, is data1. All right, now we're going to calculate the cumulative returns of the S&P 500, and we're going to create a new variable. Instead of cumulative underscore returns, it's going to be cumulative underscore returns 1. And we're going to set it equal to 1 plus returns 1. All right, I think you see the pattern here. Next, we're going to show the cumulative returns of the S&P 500. And so we're going to type cumulative underscore returns 1. So let's go ahead and run this. And now we see the cumulative returns for the S&P 500. All right, so let's create a new cell. And in this cell now, we are going to do something a little different than what we did before for the portfolio. So here we're going to show the amount that you would have by investing, or that you would have had by investing the 5,000 USD into the S&P 500 instead of the portfolio. Okay, so I'm going to create a variable called VOO underscore profit, and I'm going to set this equal to cumulative underscore returns 1 dot tail. So I'm going to get that last row of data dot values at position 0, and I'm going to multiply it by 5,000. Okay, and then we're just going to show VOO profit. So let's run this. Oh, look like I made a small mistake. Let's see. It's dot values with an S. So let's run this. Okay, and now we can see that we have multiple values from our cumulative returns 1 data set, but we only care about that close price column. So I'm going to put close here, and let's run this again. And now we can see that with a $5,000 investment, at the same time that we would have invested in the other portfolio, the older portfolio, we would have currently about $7,135 and about 9 cents. All right, so we would have been profitable there. Okay, so let's create a new cell. And now in this cell, I'm just going to print the results that we already know. So I'm going to say if VOO profit is greater than portfolio underscore profit, then I'm going to print the S&P 500 did better than the portfolio. Okay. Else if VOO underscore profit is less than portfolio underscore profit, print the portfolio did better than the S&P 500. Okay, else I'm going to print both the portfolio and the S&P 500 did equally as well. So let's run this, and now we can see that the S&P 500 did better than the portfolio, which we already knew. So in conclusion, the portfolio did not outperform the S&P 500. The S&P 500 outperformed the portfolio. the S&P 500 gave us about $7,135.09 from our initial $5,000 investment, and the portfolio gave us about $4,707.79 from our $5,000 investment. So we lost money from our portfolio. We would have gained money from investing it into the S&P 500 instead. And that basically says it all, right? But remember, this is just a small analysis, and please take it all with a grain of salt. But it does appear that the S&P 500 is a better investment. So thanks for watching this video, and a special thanks to the Patreon supporters on patreon.com. Again, if you would like to become a supporter of this channel or get the code or data sets, I will leave a link to the Patreon page, which is patreon.com/computerscience, in the description below. Thanks for watching, and I hope you all have a wonderful day, and I'll see you all in the next video. Bye-bye.